Hello, everyone. Welcome to Heal the Healers series. I am Dr. Nicole Kmack. I am a licensed clinical psychologist and I am president and CEO of Black Mental Wellness. I'm so happy to see so many of you virtually, even if your cameras are off, because as we know, during times like this, I often think about it since COVID, quite honestly, and I probably should have been thinking about it. But as a healer, as a therapist, as a psychologist, we're also living life and going through things at the same times that we're providing services to our clients. And so it is very important that we have spaces like this, safe spaces like this, just for us, where we can focus on our own healing and learn some strategies. And so it is my pleasure to be here today. This program was developed and created by our ambassadors who are part of the Black Mental Wellness Ambassador Program. They work with Dr. Dana Cunningham. And so this will be a part of a series, and they'll give you all some more information related to when you can expect future programs as well. I hear there's a date, so I'll let you all share the announcement. And then I do have, let me see if I can share. There is a quick, if I can't share, then I'll just say it. There are about 19 people who registered today to get continuing education for this. There is a 1 hour CE available for today's program. There are some requirements for CE, so you must have your camera off, and you must have your camera on. You should have received an email this morning as well, and there'll be some follow-up emails just in case, so don't worry. You must have your camera on. In the email, you should have received a form where you can put in a wellness word that is just sort of like proof that you've been here today. You're just putting in the word in that evaluation form. And you must be present, of course, for the full hour to get the 1 CE. And the wellness word for today's meeting is peace. And so I'll put that in the chat as well, just so you all have that information, and then I'll hand it over.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Nicole. I appreciate you for your introduction. So, just giving a little background on the event, we did this event in collaboration with Juneteenth because Juneteenth celebrates freedom, it celebrates education, it celebrates healing. And as we were talking about Heal the Healer, we really wanted to create a safe space for therapists because today is about freedom and healing. So we are here to celebrate the helpers. For everyone that is online, we appreciate the work that you do every day. And today is, or this hour, is all about you and your healing. And Dr. Banks is going to lead us in a grounding exercise before we get into the panel.
Thank you, Triana. I appreciate you tagging me in. Everybody has been working or doing something this morning, and we really wanted to offer an opportunity for us to tap in and really show up in this time because this whole conversation is about us. So we're going to do a quick 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise. So I want everybody just to take a moment and look around and notice 5 things that you can see. Now think about or look around and think about 4 things you can hear, 3 things that you can touch, 2 things that you're smelling right now, and 1 thing that you might be tasting. So now that we are all locked in to our time together, I am going to pass it over to Dr. Jennings.
Well, hello, good morning, afternoon, depending on where you are joining us from. Welcome to the Heal the Healer series. We're so excited to have you here. I'm Dr. Dana Jennings. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist here in Houston, Texas, and I am serving as your moderator for today. I have the elite pleasure to work with some amazing panelists that you're going to hear from today as a part of the Black Mental Wellness Collaborative. And so I know you're going to enjoy just during this time, if you do have questions, we do ask that you just place those in the chat. And we do have someone that's going to be monitoring the chat, and we will have a few minutes at the end for Q&A. So again, as questions come up throughout this event, please feel free to do so. So we're gonna go ahead and start with some quick introductions. Again, I've already introduced myself and who I am. And one of the things that I would like to start off with is with our panel as well, once you introduce yourself, is tell me what's your favorite form of self-care? And I'll go ahead and get started. My favorite form of self-care is travel. I love seeing the world, just kind of like what Miss Dr. Sharonda just had us do. I love seeing new things, hearing new things, all of those things come together lovely in the world of travel. So that is probably my favorite form of self-care. And something that's probably I do a little bit more frequently would probably be brunching. I am known as the brunch psychologist, and so that is a big part of what I do. And yeah, I often heal over brunch. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Dr. Sharonda, and get us started.
Wonderful. Hi, everyone. Again, I'm Dr. Sharonda Banks. I am a lecturer at UNC Charlotte, and I'm also the owner and clinical director of a group practice in Charlotte, North Carolina. So, what's my favorite form of self-care? Honestly, it's the ability to say no, period, with no qualifying statement, because what we know is that we don't have to qualify our no. So, that is my self-care. Do you want me to pass to someone else? Yes, I'm going to pass to Edward.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Banks. And saying hello, everyone. My name is Edward Azalongino. I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I'm also the owner of ProCare Tech, a managed IT and cybersecurity company for mental health professionals. And say for me specifically, when it comes to just my means of self-care and saying I had literally wrote down traveling, but now was in a sense already taken. But I would definitely say eating at new restaurants. I know like, like who's not down for a good brunch? Like that's always great. We all love it. I'm not gonna put it down, but sometimes even for me, if it's just checking out local restaurants that's in my city, new ones that are popping up, things of that nature. Like I literally just create a list of them, and if I need an excuse just to kind of wind down and just be present, be with myself, and enjoy some good food at the same time, then that's one of my favorite go-tos. Is just treating myself to uh, lunch, dinner, whatever the case may be, at a new restaurant that I haven't tried before. And I will pass it on to Triana.
Hello, everyone. My name is Trayana Barnes. I am a mental health therapist, a licensed social worker, and I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. And my favorite means, I'm also a mental health children's book author. So you'll see more about that in the resource guide that I'm going to send out in the chat. I am also the one that's going to be in the chat, just kind of engaging with you guys. And we got some good answers. We got some yoga, some stretching. We got Sean says she loves a good brunch. So, but my favorite form of self-care is definitely taking a walk and playing with my dog. My puppy is my heart. So hanging out with him it always brings me joy. And I am going to pass it to Miss Sydney.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Sydney Williams Parkins, licensed professional counselor. I am also the practice owner of Bloom Counseling and Wellness in Houston, Texas, and co-owner of Bloom Here Therapy Spaces. So we offer like therapy rental spaces to other therapists and clinicians in the city. And my favorite form of self-care, I have a few. Travel, of course, is at the top of the list, but most consistently, I love to curl up on my couch and play my Nintendo Switch. That is new for me in like the last like 7 or 8 months. I went and bought a Nintendo Switch to take it back to childhood, and it is everything. It's everything. So, yeah.
Ooh, I learned so much about y'all just in our introductions. I didn't know all these great things. And I'm loving all the self-healing and self-care that I see popping up in the chat. So y'all keep it going. So let's get into our first question for our panel. What called you to do this work? We all do similar work. We don't do the same work, but we do similar work. So my first question is, what called you to do this work? And what does it mean to be a Black therapist? A Black therapist doing this work? And anyone can start.
Okay, I get it started. What called me to do this work? Everybody in my family does something that's in the helping field. And I actually thought I would be a teacher in an elementary school, and that wasn't my lane. And when I really tapped into the ability to be able to show up, I was always the person that people came to ask questions or to get advice from. So I knew I would be in some space. But being a social worker is exactly what I should be doing in life. To be able to be aligned in a space to do your calling is an amazing feeling. And what does it mean for me to be a Black therapist? It means representation matters, right? It means the ability for me to create spaces where people can just really show up and they don't have to over explain culturally what's going on, right? Within those moments. And so I look at it like it's a privilege to be able to do that, but it's also a responsibility. And I don't take either lightly. I really, push into those spaces in a way that is amazing. And I love it. I love that ability.
Say doubling down on literally the same aspect, Dr. Banks. Like for me, the reason I end up getting into space, and even though it might kind of end up sounding cliche, but it's like being able to make a difference. Like some people want to just have and find their own way of just living life with a sense of value. And even just growing up, I've always been just someone that always gave back, even just selflessly. But then, even before getting into the mental care space, I'm initially wanted to be a lawyer because making a difference within our community in areas that aren't really discussed too often or might be overlooked or shunned, especially when it comes to not knowing unless you're in the profession itself in the legal space. And then at the same time, I had several family members that were in the similar helping profession as well. And they were like, hey, I could see you doing a couple of things. And one of the things was being a lawyer. And I'm like, yeah, I could see myself doing it. But for me, when psychology just kind of took over when I was in undergrad and just and it was took off from there. But then being a Black therapist in general, it's one thing that I always end up saying is I always have to remember what comes first in that title, Black. Like I'm Black first before I'm a therapist. And saying because yes, it's that means of being a source of representation, being able to have that sense of responsibility, not only just to show up, but then even at the same time, it's a reason to show out. Sometimes we don't. Um, Sometimes I see a lot of therapists in general just not feeling like they have the space to utilize their skills even outside of the therapy room. So it's like for me, it's really just making sure that I'm not only cultivating a space for my clients, but also cultivating a space for myself and my community, and making sure that it's okay. They know it's okay to do this, and say it's okay to have that aspect and focus on mental wellness in general.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I hear both of you guys saying, like, I thought I was doing something else. I thought I was going to be a lawyer. I thought I was going to be an educator. Same thing. I started off as an educator. I always tell people I'm an educator at heart because that's where I got my initial kind of, I say stepped in, put my toe in, working in schools. And then growing up, Edward, people always said, you'll be a great lawyer because I feel like when you grow up and you're Black and you're articulate and you can speak well, they give you two titles, a lawyer or a doctor. They tell you that's what you
Hmm.
can be. And it's minimizing. And so what we see is like we can really do a lot more with those skills. And so yeah, I can definitely relate. We have a lot of questions, so we're going to bop to the next one and then we'll ping to our other two panelists to jump in first for this one. So, again, this is about healing today. And so we're going to get into it right now. So, how do you recognize burnout signs within yourself? Okay, that's part one. And what strategies do you use to combat burnout in your practice, or however you're working day to day and whatever you're doing in this profession. So, first part, how do you recognize burnout signs within yourself? And then the strategies that you use to combat burnout.
Um, so I definitely recognize burnout in myself because it shows up as irritability. It shows up as exhaustion and just an overall lack of motivation. I'll know that I have 17 things to do, but I just don't have it. Like energy wise, I don't have it to give. And typically, one of the first things that I do is I start making sure that I'm, having a hard stop at the end of my day. I'm not trying to force myself to work past points that I know I'm just not physically capable. So if my cutoff is 7 o'clock, the laptop is closing, whatever didn't get done gets moved to tomorrow. And I really try to hold that boundary with myself so that I can take the evening to recover, recoup. If that's spending time with my partner, if that's resting, if that's playing my game or reading a book, I try to give myself time to actually replenish. And then a newer thing that I've actually started, which I'm actually almost embarrassed to say, but really at the top of this year, I started to look at my calendar and I'm like, all right, where can you take a day off, girl? Where can you take a day off? And not a day off to catch up on notes or do admin, not a day off to clean up around the house or get a project done, a day off to sit down and do absolutely nothing. And like recently for Memorial Day, I knew I was feeling a little burnt out. I usually work on Memorial Day because a lot of clients like to work or come into sessions on their off day. And I shut it down. I was like, absolutely not. I think for the first time in probably a couple of years, I laid in the bed until like 11. And then I got up and just kind of moseyed. I moved to the couch and then I went back to the bed. And so, really giving myself a day of nothingness, I've found has been the go-to method for me to replenish and refuel. And I was so much better for it. So, definitely keeping that going.
Love all of that, Sydney. Love all of that. Triana, you want to jump in?
Yes, Sydney, I loved a lot of what you said. A lot of people jumped in the chat and said, girl, ain't no embarrassment. Okay. Taking them days off is something that we need. So I see a lot of good conversation in the chat. Keep it up. But for me, one sign of burnout for me is me not wanting to do the work that I love.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love being a therapist. I love being a children's book author. So when I have days or not days, but weeks where I don't want to go to work and I do not want to write, excuse me, I know that I'm starting to have burnout.
Mm-hmm.
And so two things that I do is I'm with Sydney, I will take a day off and an intentional day off because what I'll, just like Sydney said, what I'll do is take off work and then I'll be writing all day or working on my business all day. Because when you're doing both, you always have something to do. So I have to be very intentional about like taking the day off and not doing anything. Another thing that I do for self-care now, I turn my phone off. Yes. We are in the yes, we're in the technology age where the thing is always going off and it's always trying to catch my attention. I turn it off and I go take a nap.
I love it. I love it. And I love it because self-care doesn't have to be complicated. Self-care can be simple but have such a meaningful impact. Today is my take off day because we're off tomorrow. I'm a government contractor, so we were off. And so I knew I had this today. And originally I was gonna, push through and just, I'll just do this on my lunch break. And I was like, no, I'm just taking the whole day. I'm just gonna take the whole day and just start my weekend early and enjoy, as I told my coworkers, my blackety black weekend. That because I have stuff planned all weekend for Juneteenth. And so I was like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. So yeah, I took Sydney and Trayana's advice, and today is my extra day that I took off. And so I'm really excited that I did. So I can really enjoy this. All right. So let's move on to our next question. we're talking about taking off and all of these things. Let's really get into the inner of what that feels like. Are you ever in a place where you feel guilty of resting? Like where you
Yep.
feel like somebody already jumped in. Do you ever feel guilty with rest? And if so, tell me about that and why do you feel, particularly as a Black therapist, we sometimes associate rest with guilt? And we'll let anybody jump in.
I love this one because I used to feel really guilty for resting. And I think it's because we've been taught that when we are resting, we're being lazy, right? Like thinking about how we grew up and it was like always stay productive, always, continue to do stuff. Productivity equaled value. And so you grow up and you begin to assign that to everything. Like I gotta stay active. I gotta stay doing things. And if I rest, that means that in this moment, I'm not being productive, I'm being lazy. And now my worth is questioned, right? And it kind of goes into identity. Like, how do I identify myself? And so, and it's something I really believe in is the fact that, we have to separate our identity and who we are from how active we are. We literally, because we're humans, deserve to rest. We deserve to allow our nervous system to relax. Our body can't do what it is made to do effectively, which leads us to be able to show up effectively, whether it's professional or whether it's personal. So I rest. I love a good nap. I be napping. I do all of the things so that I'm able to really show up the way that I feel like I'm supposed to within those moments. And I don't feel like I have to justify it, right? Like it's like that same thing I said earlier. I don't feel like I have to justify my no, I don't have to justify my rest. If I really want to be effective and I have my hands in so many different pots of growth for myself, I'm going to take the time to rest. And then I teach that. I think that's an area that we don't do enough of. Of course, as a social worker, we have our code of ethics and we talk about self-care. And I love that it's in there. I really do. But the barrier is it doesn't tell anybody how to do it. And then we don't teach self-care. We expect people to know what to do in that moment. So we expect people to go against what they've been trained in, right? That systemic thought process. And when they can't do it, then we start to feel guilty. So I am a proponent for y'all go to sleep, take a nap and give yourself permission to be able to do that.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You spoke a word. And then somebody just dropped a bar in the chat. Somebody said we're called human being, not human doing. Whoever said it, I'm taking it. I'm snatching that up because that's a word. I love that. Absolutely. Everything that you said, Dr. Sharonda, everything associated. I've been there too many times. I'm undoing, and that's a part of healing as well, is undoing what we have been taught to do, particularly as Black women, is the rest, like you said, the inactivity associated with our worth. And so I am unlearning those habits, undoing those things, and that is a part of healing as well. Anybody else want to jump in on this question?
So yeah, I definitely want to just double down on the aspect of how when we end up feeling that sense of guilt for not feeling or doing things and having that sense of productivity really just impacts not only how we perceive ourselves, but then even just how it can impact our work in general. Because we don't always have to be on go, 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 but we have to be intentional with being able to take that time and actually just practice that means of self-care. Because I know for me, there's plenty of times I at this point I wouldn't even want to count how many times how often it's happened to me because it's like why am I tracking this one thing that I know doesn't define who I am? And it's like okay, well you've been doing all the things you've been working on business, you've been caring for clients, you're doing all these other things just as other practice owners definitely probably are wearing 4 to 5 different hats outside of just being the clinician. It's like why are we not just being able to take that time to actually have a pause, take a break, and say, shoot, if even if it is 2, 3 weeks down the line, have that day where you're literally able to have the vacation, take the cruise, go out of states, out of the country, do these things because just like anybody else, we deserve that time and and break for our own means. Because how are we supposed to pour into anybody or anything else if we're literally empty all the time? So I definitely emphasize that aspect of being intentional with it all at the same time.
Absolutely, Edward. We got to practice what we preach. I know as clinicians, I always say I do a great job of setting all of this stuff up for my clients, but I have to remember to apply it to myself. And so I have to remember that I'm modeling to my clients all the time what I want them to do or what I desire for them. And it's a process. So absolutely. Um, let's move on to our next question because we got so many good ones. And so this one is really unique because we have so many different professions within mental health. We have psychologists, we have psychiatrists, we have social workers. We have so many different branches of mental health, licensed clinical social workers, all of these things. And so the next question is what is something about being a therapist that you feel people outside of the field of mental health completely misunderstand about our profession? What is something that you feel that people outside of our profession don't understand about us, or maybe they misinterpret, or maybe they don't want to understand about our work, that we want to provide clarity on, or that maybe you have in the past have had to clear up about us, our profession, and what we do? Anybody can jump in.
Yeah, I'll take this one. I have two things that kind of immediately come to mind. The first thing is that there is this assumption that just because we are therapists, we have everything together. Like we have it all together, we have all the answers, we know everything all the time, and that's just, I mean, y'all know, that's just so far from the truth, because we don't, and we should not even allow that expectation to be placed on us. Because it's not accurate, because we are still human. We are still navigating challenges. We are still figuring certain things out. But I think that's one big one. And another one, I think it's the assumption that, well, I would like for people to know that we genuinely care about our clients and about the work that we do. It's not just a job, it's not just a check. It is actually being invested in our clients and in the work that we're doing, actually, you know, worrying about them, caring about them, thinking about them, feeling for them when they are navigating their struggles, when they're having different hardships or challenges. I think one thing that is commonly misunderstood is that, you know, we actually care and we actually love the work that we do and that we value the work that we do and we don't take it lightly. It's not just having a conversation, just giving up advice. That's not what the job is at all. It's so much more than that, and I think it's so much more complex and so much more layered than I think people give credit to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Trayana, you want to jump in on this one?
Yes, so that was perfect time because I was just about to say. I saw a comment in the chat that kind of it was a good point that I wanted to bring up. B Starling said she was talking about, or he talking about how people often get disappointed when you don't meet their presumed expectations. Mm-hmm. So after they have assumed that you got it all together because you're a therapist, when you do have those moments where your humanity shows, it can be a disappointment to others. And I know I've experienced that. And I just wanted to kind of speak to that a little bit and validate that feeling, and also let people know that you have a right to be human as well. And you also don't have to explain your humanity to others. So let me set you all free today and say that if someone is expecting this level of perfection from you, you do not have to meet it or explain anything further. Mm-hmm. Okay. Absolutely. So you have the right to be human, make mistakes, have feelings, all of those things. And I think that was my main point. But could you repeat the question real quick so I make sure I answered it?
You did beautifully. Yeah, that was the question. It was, what is something about being a therapist that you feel people on the outside of the field don't completely understand? And our humanity. You said it beautifully. It's our humanity. We are we are actually people, and give us the space to make mistakes. And I'll add to that, Triana, because I throughout these years, I'm very vulnerable with my clients. I model the vulnerability that I hope to see in them. And one of the biggest things I talk to them about is I'm not always going to get it right. I think that sometimes people think that we're mind readers. I've actually had people that say that, like, oh, you're a psychologist, you must be reading my mind right now. No, I'm not a psychic. Okay. That's a different thing. I'm a psychologist. And so it's really different. And so the thing is, I'm not always going to get it right. And then my second thing, I always say that I think that people come in and have misnomers about. If I feel like at any point that I'm working harder than you as the therapist, then this is not helpful. This is no longer helpful for you. Like I am a guide. I am a conduit. I am here to lay a framework and a groundwork for you to work within, but the work has to come from you. So if at any point, if I feel like I'm working harder than my client, meaning, they're not showing up for sessions, or they're not doing the homework, or, they're missing a lot of things like that. If I'm rearranging my schedule, if I'm doing all this to be here and be present, then they're not, then I feel like, okay, it's time for us to have a conversation, and I do that often when I begin to see this, because as a big part of therapy, it's accountability. And so it's not just one time a week for 1 hour sitting down and we're going to talk about something and you're going to go off and your life is going to be great. That is not how. I wish it did work like that. I like to tell my clients that it's almost like we are going to do the work in the session, that for that 1 hour or however long, 45 minutes, 55 minutes, insurance companies, they don't cut our time down, our billable time. It's a whole nother conversation. But for that time that we're doing that, but it's up to you to put it in practice the other days of the week. And then we come back and we check in and we do a little bit more and we do a little bit more. But the work actually comes outside of the therapy session. That's when you're putting things into practice that we're talking about. And that's how true change and healing happens. So that's a bit of a misnomer that I often have to break down for people about therapy. It's not a magic wand and you're just going to come and show up and say, fix me, doc. And I'm like, I wish I could, but it just doesn't work that way. All right. I see some people in the chat agreeing with that, and I guess they've had to experience that as well. Did anybody else want to jump in? I want to cut anybody else off. We can go to our next question. Okay.
I did want to add this last comment from the chat. Brittany Rush. I think people also assume our capacity. Because I am a therapist, I must always be in the space to talk and listen or listen. Yeah. I felt that before.
Yes.
We're gonna put that to rest today.
Yeah, I think I was out somewhere this past weekend, and I was talking to somebody, and I was like, they were, yeah, I was like, are you reading my mind right now? And I'm like, no, why would I be doing that? I'm not psychoanalyzing you. It's just like they feel like we're always on, and I'm like, no, I take breaks from my job just like that. And I think I said something funny to him, like, no, I mean, that's what I do for pay. That's what I do for work. Are you paying me? No, I'm out here enjoying myself and having a good time like everybody else. So don't assume I'm working on my off time. That's a part of my healing. So no, I'm not psychoanalyzing you. I'm out here having a fun, enjoying myself, probably with a little cocktail like everybody else.
Yeah.
So yes. All right, let's go to our next question. This is a good one. This one's talking about the emotional cost to do this work, because we know it's embedded. And when you sign up for it, when you go through the program, the programs be a struggle sometimes. And I know we could get into that as well. So what is the emotional cost that comes with the work as a Black therapist? What is the emotional cost? And have anybody jump in?
Ooh, I want to jump in on this because everyone that knows me or follows me on Instagram, if you don't follow me, it'll be in the resource guide. But I work with children. There is so much emotional cost that comes with explaining racism to small children or watching them navigate what it means to be Black at like 6. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like that is a heavy weight. And I don't think it's a secret that our kids go through more than other races. So another emotional weight that I see a lot is like, I have a client that is white. They come in and they're complaining about how their parents are getting on their nerves or something of that nature. Then after that, I get a black kid that's like, somebody got shot at the end of my street last night. And my parents are, like the topics are a lot heavier, even at these tender ages. And it can definitely feel like an injustice, even in just talking with them. So that's a weight that I carry, is hearing the stories of these kids and how different it is between races, between our babies and other populations.
Oh, Triana, you're right. People who work with kids, which is me. I am a person who works with kids. And I also work in the forensic setting. So I'm also very involved in our juvenile justice system. That's what I did my residency. And even like this whole Carmelo Anthony trial, right, that just took place
Ooh.
here in Texas. You talking about emotional cost? Oh, just because I know that work and I know the intricacies, and I'm just like, why was a psychologist not called to trial? Why were they not? It's just so many missteps. And because I do that work, I would have got it. I was just like, oh, if I had have been in that trial, like there's so many missteps and things. So even like things that are going on right now that we are actually living, I take on sometimes as emotional costs of like, why could I not be in a position to.
Oh no.
Looks like
Doc-
yep. Looks like she froze on us. I just want to be sure it wasn't on me this time.
Well, I
All
was
right.
going to tap in a little bit on this question too until Dr. Dana comes back.
Oh, there she is.
Oh, she's back.
Oh, did I go out?
You
Yeah, you
did.
froze on us.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Dr. Sharona. Let me try it. I am getting a message that says it's unstable. So go right ahead and jump in.
So the part that I wanted to tap in on the emotional cost is just always creating space for everybody when you're going through the same feelings and emotions in those times too. So I think back during the elections, I had to create space for my students, for my college age students, because a lot of this was new to them and they never experienced it before, and they were so overwhelmed. And then to turn around and have to go to my clinical practice and meet with my clients who were also overwhelmed, and I'm creating space. And I literally have a picture of myself. I had finished a therapy session and I was at home and I literally laid my head on the couch and I took a picture and I just looked so depleted because at this point I said, I got to show up for myself now because I have given everything I can. I have taken in everything that everybody has going on right now. And now I am at my limit. And that was like a big situation that it happened, but it happens on a smaller scale as well. So I am a strong proponent for every therapist, every helping professional need a therapist. And if you don't have one, get one. And if you're working with
Yes.
somebody that don't have one, run. Because you got to have a space to release, right? Release whatever you're carrying, especially if you care about what you're doing, you're caring about your clients, you're caring about your students, that you're really showing up to the best of your ability. You got to let that stuff go in some capacity. And sometimes it's hard. Most times it's hard to do it by yourself. And so, just really pushing into it. So my therapist got all the heat from me, well, all the smoke from me, right? After this time. And when I
Yes.
finished, I felt better.
And that's the part that makes it tough, right? That balancing act of supporting clients through things that we also are actively experiencing. When you mentioned like election time or when we have these major moments of crises that kind of happen, and it's like now I'm trying to juggle showing up for my clients, showing up for the work that I do while also trying to figure out my own stuff and trying to, almost kind of suppress it during that time while I'm showing up for clients, but then being intentional about pouring back into myself on the back end too, so that I'm not bringing that into the space, but also being very sure that I'm not carrying all that with me, the client stuff and my stuff. Right. And so that I think is where the cost is. It's that heaviness that comes with that balance and finding that balance and making sure you have the tools to replenish and pour back into yourself.
So while we're talking about therapists having therapy, April, I like how you said a therapist without a therapist is a dangerous situation, a ticking time bomb. I agree. We are connected to a resource called the Therapy Fund. It they provide free therapy for therapists. It's not long term, but it's something. So if you need that fund, please message me somewhere and I will send it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you for that resource, Triana. And I hope I'm back. And can everybody hear me pretty good now? Okay. We're down, Sydney and I down here in Houston, and the weather, we got Arthur doing something. So if I go out again, y'all know how to just jump in. I know we are getting down toward the end, and I know we need to be kind of wrapping it up. So I'm going to do one more question, and then we're going to jump over to a short Q&A. Triana, do we have some questions in the chat? Have you gathered any? Or if so, this is the time now to start looking. We'll do one more question amongst the panel, and then we'll do some questions. If you guys have some burning questions or we haven't talked about anything, go ahead and drop them in the chat for Triana. And we're going to do one more round, and then we're going to get to your questions, and we're going to close out because we want to be respectful of your time, because guess what? Being respectful of time is a part of healing. So
yes.
All right. So our next question is, let's see, so many good ones over here. What boundaries have had the greatest impact on your well-being? What boundaries that you have set? And we've talked about this a little bit already. Some of you guys have already dropped some wonderful ones, but if you have any other ones that we have not talked about, what boundaries have you set that have worked and have been effective and had the greatest impact on your well-being?
I'm gonna jump in real quick because I love boundary questions. And I know I've talked about a lot of them already, but my most favorite one is, I'm so sorry, I don't have the capacity for that. But thank you for thinking I could. Have a good day. Knowing your capacity and how you can show up in that moment and not always agreeing to and not always trying to jump in and make those things happen. Understanding your capacity and holding people accountable to what that looks like has been a game changer for me. People know me now, so they know I come with that capacity statement and I smile. I'm not being rude or disrespectful. I just know my capacity and I thank you for thinking I could, but I can't. So I'm gonna go and sit down now. So that's one for me.
I love that. And I want to just like sprinkle a little bit on top of that. Earlier, you mentioned Dr. Banks just like saying no and how that's something that you love being able to do. So that's absolutely my number one thing, really giving myself the power to choose, I would say, more so than just saying no. As a proud recovering yes woman, I have always been accustomed to just saying yes to everything, feeling obligated to people. And even if I didn't have the capacity, it was like, what's capacity? I have to make it happen. So being able to make that shift and recognize I don't have to go on a no tour and just say no all the time, but I have the power to check in with myself before I say yes or no and actually assess what do I have the capacity for and actually leading with that versus what I feel obligated to do, or swinging it to the opposite end of the spectrum and just saying no because it's my new word and I just learned it, so now I want to give it to everybody. So definitely giving myself permission to check in with myself and answer from that honest place versus what I feel obligated to do.
Say I'll definitely even chime in because especially for me when it comes to setting that boundary, like it's like for those that may not know me, like there's sometimes a lot of things that people end up saying. It's like I'm always doing something. Like I'm always busy doing something, trying to pour into here, trying to build this, trying to do that. But then for me, one thing that has really just helped me significantly is giving myself literally just that hard stop. Like, okay, it's 9:45. Just like when it comes to any like 45 minutes in the session, it's time to start winding down. Okay, this is the time I'm starting to wind down for the day. Like now it's put up the computer, put these things up. Now we actually do some of the things that I can utilize to rejuvenate myself, whether it is just going into reading, it's watching a Netflix show, just being more intentional, just being able to give that time back to myself. Because if I'm not able to do that, now I'm not even practicing what I'm preaching at the same time, but then being consistent with that. It's not only just during in like my regular day to day, but even when I'm out with like family and friends. And so it's like I give myself a hard stop where I'm like, okay, I know like we might be out trying to go watch a movie. I'm like, if you're trying to see a 12 o'clock showing and I got a 8 a.m. Session. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, I get, y'all might be able to do that, but unfortunately, I'm not. It's just, it is what it is. Like, hey, we can reschedule for that Saturday. I got that time frame. So it's like really just not only like, uh, you end up saying before, just being intentional, giving myself that permission, but making sure I'm following through with it in all settings, in all my just areas in general, whether it's as a therapist, as an individual, or even as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would just add to that is remember, and I do this with my clients, boundaries are for you. I found so many times that people try to set boundaries for other people. Like they set the boundaries based off how they want people to respond to them. The boundary is set for you. When a rule is for someone else, okay? That's for them to follow. The boundaries are for you. So it doesn't matter, how somebody responds to them. It was for you. And so I think when you go in and we talk about boundaries, just know that they are for you and they should only apply to you. And so, how someone responds or whether they're going to respect your boundaries or not is irrelevant because the boundary is for you. And so, I think that that's a really great segue for us to get on into some Q&A and see what else have we not talked about that you would like for us to speak about that's coming up for you in your practice. Triana?
Okay, so I saw one question that asked, is there going to be more sessions for Heal the Healer? Yes.
Yep.
So you can go ahead and follow the Black Mental Wellness Corp page and you will find more events. So I am one of the coordinators for the whole series, so you'll be seeing me a lot. So if you need to reach out to me, more than welcome to answer any questions. The second one was from B Sterling. They said, what is, and this is for the whole panel, what is the most challenging type of client? Examples, BP, antisocial disorder, depression, and how do you manage or navigate that client population? So how do you navigate challenging populations that you work with? Anybody?
So I'll jump in. How to navigate challenging populations. So I definitely, like I shared earlier, come from a forensic background. So a lot of my work was with incarcerated youth, and so of course that's a very challenging population. I also specialized on postdoc and working with victims of sexual trauma, and I oversaw the human trafficking division with Harris County, which has one of the largest human trafficking divisions in the world. Nothing to be proud about, but it is a thing. And so I was proud and glad to do that work. But it is definitely emotionally taxing working with kids who have been victims of sexual abuse, kids who are coming into sessions with sexual trauma, uh, dating violence, all of those things wrapped in there. So I would say for me, self-care was paramount. And also, I used to just do what I call mind dumps because you're taking in so much. You're taking in a lot of trauma and you have to get that off of you in some type of way. So, one of the best practices I would not try to hold it. I would do my notes very quickly after I finished to get it all out, to get it where it needs to be. And then I would also go and I'll immediately go into self care mode after I had a rough or stressful day. When leaving out of that juvenile detention center, I automatically knew exactly what I was going to do to reset and balance myself, whether it was going to the gym, whether it was going for a quick happy hour or a brunch or something like that. I had my self care embedded in my day. So I did daily things that I had that I could reach out to and do. I love a good Netflix docu-series. And so that's one of my little guilty pleasures. And so again, I had to literally learn how to do mental brain dumps sometimes to release myself of taking on some of the traumatic things that I was hearing on a daily basis. So that's what worked for me. But come on, y'all jump in. Anybody else work with those tough populations?
Yeah, I'll definitely share. I think in working with challenging populations, there's a couple of things I think that are important to kind of keep in mind. One, having a good sense of or idea of what your lane is and what works for you. I definitely have worked in settings where the idea is that we're one size fit all so that we can work with all populations, we can do all work and be in all places. And I think that is a major mistake. And I don't think that that is best for clients all the time. So having an awareness of what certain areas, whether it's diagnosis related or issue or area of concern that are not, it's just not for you. And that's something that sometimes we have to learn the hard way. We know when we're in it and we realize it, but being okay with saying like, hey, I'm no longer the best person for the job. I think that's one way to kind of navigate dealing with certain populations that just aren't for you. And then also with specific like diagnoses that might be more challenging or certain areas that might be more challenging that you are still working with. I think having very strict boundaries, not necessarily just with yourself about how you spend your time and all of that, but let's say you're dealing with a client who, because of their diagnoses, they might push boundaries or not acknowledge them at all, might be very inconsistent with therapy, might want to bring up major things like, you know, those doorknob confessions at the end of a session. Having strict session boundaries and expectations set in those sessions while you're in the work with those clients, I think is also very helpful, and I found to be very helpful. Very clear, direct communication around those expectations, and then hold the line on those boundaries. And it's a balance of empathy and strict boundaries.
And
Absolutely.
then I would definitely add on top of that and saying being able to not only, of course, when you're setting those boundaries for yourself, but also don't be afraid to continue having the means of supervision. Because sometimes there'll be times where you might have be interested in seeing someone within that challenging population and you're like, okay, I've kind of worked with it here, I've kind of done this here, but like I feel like I can do it. It's like, okay, well, if you have those type of thing thoughts, it's like, well, that's fine to have that sense of confidence in yourself, but do you have the means of supervision? Do you have someone that's actually able to help you through this? Because you're green in that in this in that sense. And say it's like, yes, of course, we all have had those times in internship and practicum. So that's a whole different type of conversation for another day. But then it's still being able to carry that same aspect, even after we're licensing and even and being independent. And it's like, yeah, if there's challenging populations, and plus, what's wrong with having another professional that has that expertise and that is well depth in treating that population to be able to assist to make sure that you're always continuing to give that high quality of standard of care. So I'm definitely emphasize doubling down on supervision as well on top of the self-care practices at the same time. So you because then even then you can get additional guidance as well.
Love that. Yeah, love it. Any more? Trayan, I think I saw somebody ask about the CEs. I think Dr. Nicole went over it at the beginning.
Yeah, so we are going to send all of this out in an email as well, just so that people are able to get it after the event. So,
Okay, perfect.
And I also emailed all the CE registrants again during this event, but we will put everything together, the evaluation for today, the information for CEs. You all should have received an email and the resource guide.
All right, awesome.
and I've gotten a few messages about the therapy foundation. I'll add that to the email too.
Okay, wonderful. We're going to end out, I think, if we don't have any more questions. Again, we're trying to be respectful of everyone's time. If you do have to go, if you came in on your lunch break, we were so glad to have you. We're just going to have one more final statement from our panel, and then we're going to sign off for today. And we hope that you can join us for our next Heal the Healer series, which is going to be coming up. I think there's one that's going to be coming with for Black men particularly, and then one for caregivers. I think those are our two that I saw that are going to be coming out. So we've got some more, absolutely. So in one sentence, panel, before we log off for today, what do you want every healer to remember and to take away from today? And that's how we're going to end. In one sentence, what do you want every healer to remember and take away from today?
I would say my sentence would be healers don't heal alone. Like we're like sometimes it can feel like this practice and things can be very isolating at times, if whether if you're like a solo practice or even if you're in a group practice, people just are kind of siloed in. But also just remembering like it's okay to come together, it's okay to have that group supervision, it's okay to have that have the sense of differences, or just coming together even for a means of self-care in general, because literally, like, even though yes we might see one-on-ones or even in group setting and you may not have a co-facilitator, or if you do, that's perfectly fine, but just recognize that you're not alone, and it's okay to literally go out and ask questions, get the supervision, because literally we're not doing this alone.
My sentence, you don't have to sacrifice yourself to serve others. And I'll leave it there just because you said
one sentence.
I'm gonna do right. I'm gonna do right.
Okay, my sentence, one sentence. I wrote it down. So let's remember that self-care is super important, but remember we cannot keep asking individuals to heal from environments that continue to make them sick. So true sustainability requires both personal wellness and systemic change.
Yep. And I kept mine simple, and it's something you've already heard, but it resonated. It always resonates with me. You can't pour from an empty cup. Fill up your bucket, fill up your cup, and do it often.
Mine would be, in order for you to be your best, you have to take a break. So go take a nap, everybody. Take care of yourselves.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our wonderful panel. Thank you for your service. I hope this has synergized your Juneteenth kickoff weekend celebration and allowed you to be in a mindset and a place today, to know that the work you do is valued, it's cultivated, it's needed, it's all of those things, even in spaces where you may be, where you don't feel that way, you don't feel validated, or you don't get that appreciation. We hope that this time today has brought that to you in a special time and place in 2026. Continue to do the work, continue to grow, continue to heal, and thank you for being a part of Black Mental Wellness today.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody.